This is Tom Cruise. And welcome to Moviefone, and I'm here with Steven Spielberg, and we're going to be interviewing each other using your questions. Hey, Steven.
Okay, hey, Tom. How are you?
Good, man.
This is nice and weird. Because we've never done this before.
The two of us, we've never done this before.
Never before, no.
Okay, so this is from Voodoo Stew. So what is it about H.G. Wells, War of the Worlds, that inspired you to make this movie, Steven?
Well, for one thing, I think H.G. Wells, along with Jules Verne, because I think you have to mention both of them, was one of the first writers of science fiction fantasy that I ever heard of. I mean, H.G. Wells was someone who I heard of from my dad when I was a kid, but someone who I never read until I was in college.
Did you read it in film school, or did you read it in just college?
I read it in creative writing class.
So when you read it, did you think?
Well, first I thought I had to be a director someday. And then I thought,
but you were already a director. You've been a director since you were born a director, weren't you?
I was born a director. And I was pretty good at giving my younger sister direction. I'll tell you that. Growing up, but I was really born, knowing that I wanted to tell stories somehow. And first I wanted to be a director, but then the second thing I remember thinking about, well into my career, was whatever happened to that story I read when I was a kid about War of the Worlds? Wouldn't that be an amazing film to tell the story about? And that's how this whole thing started. And so now I'd like to just ask Tom a question. This is from Chapar Rate. What makes working with Mr. Spielberg different from other directors?
Now, Mr. Spielberg, is that your dad?
That's my dad. What makes working for my dad different than working for other dads? And what do you take away from your experience working with him?
Well, now I'm going to really embarrass Steven. But I'm actually going to, I really don't care, because the truth is that what everyone knows is that Steven Spielberg is the greatest storyteller cinema has ever known. Every director is very different, but I can just tell you what it's like working with Steven Spielberg, which it is a creative combustion. It's not an analytical, it's not a mechanical process. It's an inspired process, and something that just happens on the moment. Although this was the fastest pre-production, and the scale of this film is the largest scale that I have ever been a part of. And I've produced and acted in big films, but with Steven, I never felt rushed. Ever since I first met you, it's been a very unique relationship.
Well, we enjoy solving problems together. We're good problem solvers. The good news is there are not a lot of problems to solve.
Yes.
because we're both very, very much inspired by the screenplay. Therefore,
yes.
We spend a lot of time getting the script right before we have to solve script problems on the day, on the soundstage, or on the location. Yeah. But when there are problems, we kind of look forward to that, because I think we together as a team can come up with a very kinetic idea that not only solves the problem but creates a sequence that was better than the original scene because the problem presented itself to us.
That's always looking for those opportunities, isn't it? But that's when you're working with someone that really understands that story. And what I love also is you see a frame. Like, you allow yourself, you let the set speak to you. And what we do is I'd show up early with Steven. I like getting there, and then I can just see Steven just kind of walk around, and it's not
inspired by the location.
It's just creating. It is creating.
Yeah. And I think creativity is basically just, finding a way to make opportunities from your surroundings. I get a couple of actors in a room. I get Tom and Dakota in a room together, and all of a sudden I've got 7 more ideas that I didn't have the night before when I was trying to plan my day, and I did not have Tom and Dakota in the room. And so it just seeing them together and seeing them firing off each other, and they're a great team in this story, just gave me so many more ideas, and we were just trying to cram them all in the time we had to make the movie. But I have a question. Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much for that.
No, this is just from me to you. Which is your favorite which are your favorite childhood movies would you like to remake? And who would you want to star in it?
God, I think my favorite childhood movies, honestly, Tom, that I would not want to remake them, because they actually occurred at a point in my childhood that many of them formed who I am today, and I wouldn't want to, make them any differently than the filmmaker who I give thanks to for informing me and perhaps transforming me somewhat. Disney made many, many movies when I was a kid that I would never want to remake because those films were sacred to all of us, especially sacred to my memories of them. So I don't really believe in remaking films that had anything to do with reshaping my own life, because I think a lot of those films are classic movies. But if I had to remake a couple of films, I think it would be great to get all the actors who I've ever worked with someday in my life, all the actors who I've had deep relationships with, in the professional sense of really understanding screenplay and understanding how to create moments, and just learning how to shut my mouth up and let you take it away and make something out of whole cloth, which is terrific. I get quiet when you're on a roll. I don't open my mouth.
No,
I'm afraid I'm going to
right
ruin something and give you an idea that will get you off your track. But it'd be fun someday to make a movie again with kind of like a favorite favorite hits album, where everybody I've ever had fun with, we all make a movie together.
Hanks.
Get you and Dreyfuss and Hanks. I mean, I've got such a litany of actors I'd like to put together in a movie,
Anthony
which is great.
Hopkins. The thing is also that the audience should realize this movie isn't a remake.
No, it's not.
This movie is not a remake of
War of the Worlds in 53.
War of the Worlds, the film. This is actually it's based on the book, but just coming out of the mind of Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, and David Koepp, the writer,
and David
Tom Cruise.
Koepp.
And the other thing to remember also is we do, pay our respects to the 1953 movie, and there are several scenes from the 1953 movie that I hope you appreciate the way we did a variation of them. But mostly we both feel that this is an inspiration from the original H.G. Wells book. Okay, from Neth Kin, most of the characters you've played cannot be researched. So, how do you prepare for your roles?
Every role requires research, and every role requires soul searching and my own understanding of life and what it is that I want to communicate with that character. And it's also part of the research is getting the communication with the director also, right. And the writer, and discovering what is, because I have the things that I want to create with the character. But I'm really interested in what is it that excites Steven about this character also, because it gives me more ideas. And then together we're kind of creating, I have my reality, he has his, and we're creating this other reality, which is the film itself. And so we're looking for where those points of agreement, where we can take it to a level that's interesting and hopefully engrossing to an audience.
Right. But you lived in New Jersey, so you had twice, and so you had some idea about that area of America and the blue-collar working-class individual who you play in this movie. You have your roots in
my
that part
roots
of the country.
are in that blue-collar.
Right.
Went to 15 different schools. And,
he wasn't born a movie star. Although you probably were, actually, come to think of it. But we all come from very interesting origins, don't we?
Yes. Very much so.
We kind of all accidentally fell into this business.
So this is not Salone.
That's good. I like these monikers are cool.
I know, they're great.
They're great.
What advice would you give to aspiring filmmakers? And it said he wants to know, how do I get started?
Well, it's in a sense, in terms of opportunities, it was a lot harder to get started when I was growing up and wanting to be a movie director, almost at 12 years old, because when I first picked up a camera, in order to get
Where were you living when you first?
I was in Scottsdale.
You were in Arizona?
I was looking for a way to fulfill the requirements to get a photography merit badge. I was in the Boy Scouts of America, and the manual said. Did you want to be a filmmaker before that? No, I didn't want to be a filmmaker at all. I just wanted to be an Eagle Scout. That was my only aspiration, was to want to get the highest rank I could in scouting. And so on my way to being an Eagle Scout, I had to get a certain requisite amount of merit badges, and one of them I wanted to get was photography. And the requirement was to tell a story with still photographs. And my dad's camera broke. He did not have a still camera. Like the Brownie Kodak that he had wasn't working. So but he did have an 8mm Kodak 8mm movie camera, and I went to the Scoutmaster and I said, can we change the rules just so I can tell a story on film, because we don't have a still camera? And the Scoutmaster said, go ahead and do it. So I got 3 minutes worth of film, which is, by the way, all of those cameras used to take, these little 3-minute rolls of film, and I made this Western on a weekend. And I showed
how did you edit? Did you camera cut?
Camera cut, a little shot. My friends and cowboy outfits robbing a stagecoach, which was sort of an exhibit out front of a place called Pinnacle Peak Patio, a restaurant which is still there outside of Scottsdale.
So how did you know to camera cut?
I just figured out, you do a shot in this direction of the bad guys with their guns and masks on, and my sisters played the damsels in distress in the stagecoach, giving away their costume jewelry, well, my mother's jewelry. I didn't tell her we took my mom's jewelry to give away to 12-year-olds, pretending to be robbers. And I made this little movie and then showed it to the Boy Scout troop that weekend, and they all went crazy for it. They screamed and applauded, and I suddenly got bitten by that bug, and I wanted to do this for the rest of my life. It was became so clear to me. But it was hard then, because to make movies you had to pay for film and pay for developing of the film. So I had to go to my dad to say, Dad, I'll earn some money, but I can't earn all the money because I go to school. I can't get a job to earn the money to pay for all this equipment. So my dad helped me. However, today it's easier. Today, everybody seems to have a camcorder. Everybody has some high-8 digital camera. And it's a lot easier to get your hands on.
You can buy that editing program for the computer.
You can buy a software program for the computer and go out and make a movie and tell a story and figure out who you are as a storyteller. And so in a sense, it's easier today for young people to at least prove to themselves this is what they want to do for the rest of their lives, or at least in the interim of the rest of their lives. And it's also, if you get bitten by that bug, you can make a lot of little movies, and somehow those films will get seen by people, hopefully, that will hire you to do a music video someday, or a TV commercial, or a television show, or someday a feature film.
I find I can see someone that just has talent and can tell a story.
Yeah.
That it's...
It's not about camera magic.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm looking at student films, or I'm looking at first-time directors' short films, I'm not looking for how great the camera is. I mean, so many people, I can look at any TV commercial and know that there are directors out there that can place a camera and sell a product, but can they tell a story that holds together and is compelling and original? And that's the secret. I'm more interested in a storyteller that doesn't know anything about where to put the camera than someone who knows everything about the camera but nothing about the story process.
What I find with you is that it's truly what interests you, what it is you want to know at that point, what it is you want to see.
And I think it's okay that a first-time filmmaker, being so inspired by movies and music videos and any kind of music or media, can make a derivative film. It's okay that your first videos and your first attempts at telling a story are derivative, are obviously influenced by something that that you saw last week, and you want to kind of do a version. There's nothing wrong with learning the ABCs, learning your craft by being derivative, but at some point you're going to need to find your natural voice and find a way to give voice to who you are. And who you are, by the way, who you are is original. It just is, because you're not Tom, you're not me, and you're not your best friend, and you're not your teacher, you're not your parents. You are you. And because of that, you do have, every bone in your body is an original bone. It's sometimes trying to figure out how to express your own originality, and that sometimes takes a number of years to figure yourself out.
And that's great sage advice, because it's also being good enough to yourself and having the courage to keep going in spite of,
Yeah, everybody telling you, a lot of adversity, people saying you can't do this, and and we won't let you. Okay, this is from Carmel H56. Tom.
Yes, Stephen.
What do you look for in a project, and how do you know when it feels right? That moment that you commit, you say, that's for me, I'm going to give 6 months to a year of my life, if not longer, to this.
It just happens. It's just, it's not analytical to me, isn't it? I mean, when we hit it, it's, I'll never forget with Minority Report, it just hit me. And, Steve and I were trying to work together for a long time, of course, I was working with Steven, so I was, throwing stuff. So finally, I read this story, and it's just something that hits you. It's hits me. I can't articulate it really. I've read screenplays I thought were really well written. I thought this is going to be a terrific movie, but and I want movies to be terrific. But it's something. Is this something that I want to do? It's just my own personal taste.
I feel the same way. I'm one of the things I'm known for, actually, and often in the pejorative, is I'm the guy that turned down Spider-Man 1 and Harry Potter. And I turned them down not because I didn't want to see them, and not because I didn't want to take my kids to them. And I knew I would be heroes if I directed either of those films. But it wasn't my time to make those films. My time to make Spider-Man and my time to make Harry Potter was 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
I didn't know about Spider-Man. I remember talking to you about Harry Potter.
Yeah. John Calley sent me the script by David Koepp, who wrote the script, who wrote War of the Worlds and Jurassic Park and Men in Black and other things for us. And David's a great writer, and I loved it, but I just wasn't. It wasn't my time to tell those stories. It was Sam Raimi's time to tell that story. It was Chris Columbus's time to tell that story. It wasn't my time. I think for me anyway, the films that I commit to direct, I was supposed to direct 20, 30 years ago. I was the only one who didn't know it. But somehow that was the part that was meant to be. And so I'm very philosophical about, and it makes it easier when I turn something down and it becomes this outrageous phenomenon, not to feel bad about myself, that maybe my mojo's not working and I should have said yes and didn't say no. Whenever I turn something down and it's a huge success, I am so happy for the people who made that picture.
I know you are.
And I don't beat myself up because that was never meant to be mine.
No, I know, and you're very generous.
And I'm answering your question in a way also that you got to be inspired to get up to the plate with that bat in your hand.
I agree. It has to be, because you know what? If you'd have done it, you didn't want to do it. It wouldn't. It's your personal experience. It's your personal journey.
Yeah, I really believe I wouldn't have made Harry Potter the same way, and probably not as commercially as Chris Columbus made it. And I would have found some way to make it my own, and that might not have been what the audience wanted.
Thanks everyone. Steve and I want to thank you.
Thanks to everyone for submitting these questions. Thank you, Moviefone. Great. That was great. Fabulous.